What's up, Fish 2? Bearded Bob once again, showing off the Blue Star Endler tank. And this also houses some homemade cherry red shrimp, and see most of them got the back line because they were kind of mixed with yellows and yellow golden backs once in their life, and they've basically been living in the cull tank in the other room for most of their lives. I pulled out the best looking ones I could find. I think I got about 10 to start the colony with, and you can see now, for the most part, they're all pretty decent quality red cherry shrimp. They're not gonna win any awards or whatever, but there's still some. If you look up towards the top there in the plants, there's some that are not so good. They gotta be culled out still. Most of those are gonna be the males, which is fine. I usually just, and I actually did throw in one red cherry male that was subpar for the tank that he was in out in the other fish room, but he would fit in very well and add some genetic bettering, I don't know what to call that, to this line. There's one of those that's kind of like a candy striper. So anyways, this tank, I just recently did a big water change on it, about 50%. I pulled out as much hair algae as I could at the time. As you can still see, like this, all this Christmas moss is just overrun with hair algae. So that'll get, it'll probably just stay in here for now. Eventually this tank will get repurposed, and the red cherries will go back to the main cull tank, or I might sell them off. I just have a hard time selling something that produces subpar genetics, especially if just kind of left alone and not culled out. They're just going to revert back and get some yellows and whatnot in them too, because that does happen from time to time in here. I'll pull out yellows maybe once a month. They'll find one or two, but in this tank, for the most part, it's kind of cold in this room that it's sitting in. So I've got a Phoenix 150 watt heater with the external knob on there, which is super nice to crank the temp a little bit. You can kind of see, I guess we're sitting about 77 degrees. That's decent. I usually keep my tanks between 76 and 78, right in that general range. All of my tanks, for the most part, spare this one now, I should say, run on the same water. But let's see, what was I talking about? I had a message pop up on my screen here. Anyways, we'll go into kind of what the plants are and stuff in this tank, and you can see tons of algae, which is super cool. I did pick off a lot of the duckweed when I did the water change, but it always comes back. There's no just getting rid of it completely unless you drain the tank. So yeah, we've got some duckweed and some algae. We've got Ludwigia red here, and this one does super well in my water. We've got some crypts down here, so just some bronze crypts. We've got a ton of water wisteria that's growing all throughout everything in here. We have some AR cardinalis, but again, because I stopped fertilizing like crazy, it's all pretty much melted back. So we got to get this stem out of this tank for now, get into a tank that is getting fertilized regularly. And we've also got some bacopa. And we're back. Sorry about that. Like I was saying, some bacopa caroliniana, and then all this Christmas moss being invaded by hair algae. I just recently switched the light out to beams work with one of the digital timers, and you can see it's sitting there real nice looking. And hopefully that's going to help out with some of this hair algae. I also got to fertilize more. I got to get some of this water wisteria out of this tank. When you put it in a tank, it's nice because it does kind of grow pretty fast. But these tanks that don't get a lot of maintenance from me, it pretty much just takes over, and then it starts shading things out. As you can see, when you shade it out and you're not fertilizing it, that's when all this hair algae begins to grow. Because I'm pretty sure with this colony, which is just insanely massive in this little 20-gallon long, at night they seem to like to either sleep towards the bottom, or what I've noticed is most of my guppies and endlers and stuff like to sleep on top of moss. So if they find some moss and they're sitting there all night and they do their business, you know, after, say, at the end of the day, and say they all do that, all, you know, 3,000 of them that are in here or whatever, then you got a lot of junk just kind of sitting on top of this Christmas moss, and the hair algae just loves it, especially when it's shaded out. So regularly cleaning and fluffing the Christmas moss definitely takes care of getting some of the poo and whatnot out of it. But like I said, being that this tank is kind of far away from my main fish room, it doesn't really get regular maintenance at this point. All these guys here, I'm hoping to get them moved into their own tank in the next couple of months. I'm cycling one tank right now. I have another one that I can cycle to. But getting towards summertime here, I'll be selling off parts of this colony, probably sending them out as trios, or maybe some fry packs, depending on what people want. Make a little bit of money on the side, and then these guys will be in a tank that's going to be more manageable, especially given the amount that's in here, being like, you know, 5 million Endlers in this tank. I also regularly pull out the males out of this tank. I leave 2 or 3 generally. You can see some, like this one right in the center of the frame. It's not focusing, but that's a male kind of looking at us. He's just starting to get orange in his tail. He's just starting to get his color. When they don't have this yellow, or excuse me, orange stripe on their tail, like this guy doesn't really have that orange stripe, he'll be getting pulled out. This one, I think kind of the same boat. That one's got the orange stripe. You see him? It's a nice orange stripe, and that's kind of what I want for the colony. So any males that don't have that, I definitely need to pull out of here. And yeah, all the males get separated out and get stuck into the cull tank, my shrimp cull tank, Neo cull tank. And they kind of just live their life in there. They have a blast. They chase each other around all day, every day. And it's super fun to watch. I've always enjoyed just sitting down on the floor and watching them swim around. And these guys get fed pretty regularly too. Whenever I feed the fish room, I feed them. That includes, you know, baby brine shrimp, freshly hatched, frozen foods, some brine shrimp, baby brine shrimp, and red worms, whatever those things are called. Can't think of it. Bloodworms, there you go. And as well as flake food. You can see some food sitting up there. A mix of freeze-dried brine shrimp and what the heck is that stuff? The fluval bug bites. I'll throw that in once in a while. And then they all get little pieces of that homemade shrimp food that I showed you earlier in a different video. And that's what they're kind of chowing on right here. You can see there's one almost kind of brown shrimp right there. And it's got a little bit of red to it, but it's kind of, well, maybe that's just the back line on it. It's kind of a more brown. Like I said, it's, you know, it was kind of fun to make this colony and do all the culling and selecting the best genetics. And it took a few months probably to get a general good line going. Like I said, I still end up with yellows once in a while that are born, and some that are subpar looking, tiger stripers, like that guy. Let's see, where is he? There's some of them right there. Just kind of, they're red cherries, but they're just not very good. So like I said, these guys will be moving to a bigger tank, more into the main fish room, and this 20-gallon long will get repurposed for something different. And that's pretty much all that's going on in this tank. Again, I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, you know, dislike, whatever you want to do. Send me down a comment down below the video here. And like I said, I pretty much answer any question as soon as it happens. Sometimes if it happens at 2 in the morning, I'm not going to answer right away, obviously. But usually by the next day, I reply to your comments. So any questions, throw them my way. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.